Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, July the 9th. It is the 191st day of the year. There are 175 days left in the year 2024. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, I hope all of you had a good 4th of July week, enjoyed food, family, and some fun. I want to give a shout out to the In the Heat of the Night fans, and in particular, the In the Heat of the Night fan club, especially Anthony, Antley, Laurie, Vernell, and the many others. I understand many of you made the trip to Covington, Georgia this past week, and some of you maybe even visited Ted Marcus's office. But thank you for that. Ted appreciates you. I certainly appreciate you and all the others who keep the show alive. In the Heat was my first television series. 35 years later, it still holds its own as a series and certainly as a film. But for me, I made some lifelong friends and business associates and counted among the highlights of my film and television experience. After having been a part of over 100 productions, television, film, theater, commercials, the Heat is what put me on the map. So I appreciate you all. Appreciate the work. Thanks. Well, our G-List guest today is Quentin Riggins, Senior Vice President of Governmental and Corporate Affairs at the Alabama Power Company. He leads the company's governmental relations efforts on the state and federal level. He's also responsible for coordinating Alabama Power's grassroots and corporate relations program, and he also serves as the President Pro Tem of the Board of Trustees at Auburn University. We look forward to having a great discussion with Quentin. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl consulting firm. So let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker, and see what they got for us today. Barbara Wallace Edwards, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. I'm doing better. I am recovering from some allergy sinus stuff that's been going on for like the last 6 days or so. So today's the first that I really felt pretty good, pretty normal. So thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Life's good, and it's just hot.
It's definitely hot. Most definitely hot.
But I'm doing well. So how was your 4th week?
Well, again, it was quiet. I stayed home, wasn't feeling very well. I pretty much stayed in bed all day. So you can tell, as you know, I would have been out and about and traveling somewhere. So yeah, I really wasn't feeling good at all. So I stayed close to home.
And I think the last meeting, it was something AT&T. Which one was it that you were having the issue with?
AT&T, Facebook.
Oh yeah,
they all bother me. They're all bothering me right now. I still hadn't resolved the issue with Facebook yet. So I have created a second account on Facebook, and I'm telling people I'm sending them new friend requests. It is me. It's a different name. It is me. Please accept my friend request so we can be.
What name is it?
Golden Tigers.
Yeah, I think I got one of those.
Yes, you did accept.
I remembered it was you, so it's like, okay, well, this is Barbara. So
I appreciate that.
Well, I didn't like it. Well, good deal. What do you got for us this morning?
I got a couple of things for you, Tom. First of all, I want to say I'm excited. Since I'm feeling better, I'm going to be traveling to Florida later this week. I'm going to a family reunion. I'll get a chance to see some family members that I haven't seen in quite some time, and others that I've seen sporadically throughout the year. But it's always great when we can gather for a couple of days to really fellowship and have fun, eat a lot of good food, and tell a lot of great stories, and hear some of our elderly relatives talk about the past, and we'll honor those who have gone on before us. So we'll have a great time down there.
Where in Florida?
In Tampa. We'll be in Tampa, St.
Good.
Pete. Yes.
Y'all
So
going
looking
all
forward to that.
real Florida.
Oh yes, the real Florida. Y'all, you're pretty much in the real Florida too, but
you got a ways to go to get to Tampa. Tampa's about 10 hours from where we are. So.
that is so true.
Yeah. Good deal. Okay.
Well, that's one thing. That's one thing. And Tom, another story that we talked about, we reported on before. There was a black man that was elected mayor in New Bern, Alabama.
Saw that.
And he had been locked out of City Hall, and the old regime wouldn't let him in. Well, he won the lawsuit, and in the settlement, he's going to take control of City Hall again, and he will have an opportunity to appoint his city council, and he'll send those names to Governor Ivy, and if she approves it, then they'll have a totally new regime in place there in New Bern. So that's good to know. And they will hold elections again in 2025. So hopefully there won't be any issues like they've had in the past. Yeah, the first black mayor in the city it was a majority black city, actually. I think the blacks outnumber the whites there 2-1, and they still was locking this man out of City Hall and wouldn't let him take control.
Yeah, that's I saw where I thought about you. I saw that story where he had finally got access to City Hall.
Absolutely. So that's a good thing.
Told him he won, but you can't take office.
Right. Isn't that something? He was elected mayor, but he can't take office.
Yeah, that's great. That's not good at all. I shouldn't say that's great. But anyway, let's get Michael on here, and I'll get back to you. Michael Walker, how are you?
Good morning, TG. I'm doing well. I hope you are too. Good morning, Barbara.
Great, man. What's happening? How was your week, and what's happening in your world?
Well, the holiday weekend was very good. It was relaxing. I can't hardly remember what I did because I didn't do anything. So
that's a good week.
That made it a good weekend. Barbara, I can't help it, but so y'all forgive me. Did they consider him to be a DEI mayor? That's why they locked him out of the city?
Undoubtedly so. We'll have to ask the people of New Bern what they thought about that.
Where is New Bern?
It's down not far from Tuscaloosa. I think it's maybe 90 miles or 60 miles from Tuscaloosa. So somewhere toward West Alabama.
Mm. Well,
go ahead.
That explains it, I guess. It's interesting. When would you think that you could score one of the first interviews with the president of the United States after he does a debate and you end up losing your job because of it?
Yeah.
A young lady by the name of Andrea Lawful Sanders. She worked at a black-owned radio station, WURD in Philadelphia. They're a black talk show radio station. And she was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to interview President Biden after the debate. I think she got the second interview or what have you. However, she ended up losing her job because the Biden team sent her a list of 8 questions to ask in the interview, and she approved them and sent them back. And I think she asked about 4 of them. Well, station management said that interview was secured by a third party, being Andrea Lawful Sanders, without the consultation, approval, and collaboration with WRD management. And the fact that she allowed them to dictate which questions to ask. And that was against their policy because station management says they are not in the business of being a mouthpiece for the Biden administration or any administration whatsoever. And that what should have been done, and what they didn't really say it in an article, but I know it from experience, is that a lot of times in instances like this, the candidate will ask you, would you send me a list of the questions you plan on asking, rather than the other way around? And I think that's what the management had an issue with, because they're saying we should be able to ask any questions we want without them dictating it to us. So the White House is saying that they weren't trying to control it, and that the station getting the interview wasn't based on them accepting their questions or not. It was just them offering. So what can you say about that? I hate it for the lady.
I don't think she should have lost her job for sure. I mean, that's
yeah. And I'm not so sure that there were any questions that they sent that were the problem. I don't think that was the problem at all. I think it was just the way it was handled based on what they're saying. But they're just saying that the manager said something I thought was interesting. They accused the president handlers of delegitimizing the Black voices. It's what they look. That's the way they looked at that. So what can you say? Tell you something that's pretty funny. Serena Williams, she tried to not really cash, but deposit a $1 million check through the ATM drive-through. That was how naive she was when she got her first check from playing tennis, because she was just playing tennis for the love of playing tennis, wasn't thinking about the money and all the fame that came with it. And she got a check for $1 million, and she went to the drive-through to the bank and tried to deposit the check. And the guy on the other side said, you need to come inside. We need to talk about this. We don't take checks like this.
What I understand, Michael, she said that she really, when she started playing, she wasn't thinking about the money she was going to get paid. She said if she lost the match or the tennis match, she would just leave the venue. She didn't even try to get the money, but she didn't think about it. And her accountant called her one day. It's like, hey, you never sent us a check you earned from, Wimbledon or wherever. And she was like, oh yeah, I just left after I didn't win. So I didn't even get my check. And they had to call several places and ask them to send her check after the fact. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, when you think about people, especially young athletes and young celebrities get an opportunity at a very young age. They really don't know anything about the financial part or the business part of what they do in their trade. And it's pretty funny that she tried to deposit $1 million check at the drive-through.
I'm just curious as to why they wouldn't let her deposit it. I mean,
I don't know.
I had $1 million check. I'd go inside.
Right.
But, that's interesting.
Yeah, I could see if she was trying to withdraw $1 million, she's trying to put the money in the bank.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Tom, I've been hanging around you too much. I'm kind of cynical. I think it's the fact they just wanted to get her inside so they could start selling her a bunch of stuff and managing her money and telling her what to do with it.
Well, probably the people in the window, they're not very high up on the food chain. And so they didn't want to do something that would come back and bite them. Yeah, it's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I saw her on something the other day. Can't think of what it was now. Go ahead, Michael. What else you got?
Well, it's funny how big organizations, they hate to admit when they make a mistake, and they'll go to the nth degree in order to seem like it's your fault. Okay. Chicago man living in a suburban, unincorporated community outside of Chicago. He was on the verge of losing his home that he bought in 2006, which was a 1950 style home. And the current house is valued at $180,000. However, when he got his property tax bill, he was charged $30,000 in property taxes.
Jesus.
What?
And the previous year, Tom, he had paid a whopping $1,800 in property tax.
Yeah.
And so now this year, he gets a bill for $30,000. The reason being is that when the property assessor went out, they valued his property as $1 million, $1 million home. And this is just a little 3-bedroom house, 1 bath, wooden house. And they valued it at $1 million. And he couldn't believe it. So he went downtown to the tax assessor's office to talk to the person. And like you said, he went to the person, I guess, at the window, Tom, or one of the low-hanging fruit people. And they looked at him and said, everybody taxes go up.
Not that much.
And he said, but man,
$28,000 worth.
He said, I can't pay this. This is up over 3,000%. And they said, well, it's nothing we can do. So the only way he was able to get justice is he went to the television station there, the Fox station, and talked to them. And they made a call down there to inquire how could somebody's home that was valued at $180,000 currently get a bill for $30,000 in property taxes. So once they got in it, they realized that they said that they made a mistake. And so they were going to process the corrected bill and in the coming weeks, and he would get it and he'd have the opportunity to pay the right amount of taxes. That's what they told the television station, and they reported on it. But had it not been for that, they were just going to bulldog him into paying $30,000 to take his house.
If it were me, when they said we're gonna correct it and you can pay the right amount of tax, I would have said, how much is that?
Right. Tell me now.
Right. Before we get off the phone, so
Right.
I won't be surprised when I get the bill.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, but can you imagine that? And looking at the picture of the house, it's nothing that would come near that. As a matter of fact, to be honest, the way I see this house, I think $1,800 is too much he's paying on it, to be honest. But I know
what state was this, Michael?
Illinois.
Oh wow!
Right outside of Chicago.
Yeah.
It looks like it ought to be charged about maybe $600, $400. But I'm kind of equating that to the property we have in Auburn and one of our houses, and it looks like the house in the back of our main house. It looks like one of those, and he's paying $1,800, and then they charge him $30,000 the next year.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. So,
okay, Barbara, would you talk about Possum Trot for a minute?
I will. Tom, I got a chance to go see the movie Sounds of Hope over the weekend, and it is a story about a Black couple who were the minister and his wife, who were in Possum Trot, Texas, which is, we figured out, maybe not too far from Houston, and it is a true story where they actually adopted 7 kids who had been in foster care. And then the pastor influenced the people in his church to adopt kids as well. And before it was all over a couple of years, they had adopted every kid that was in foster care within 100 miles of Possum Trot, Texas. And a phenomenal story. I just, again, so inspiring, and to know that these kids who had been abused and neglected and many times just left alone with no one to care about them. Even when they went into the foster care system, they were placed in homes where they were continually abused many times. They were placed in loving homes and were adopted by these families there in Possum Trot, Texas. So if you haven't gone to see the movie Sounds of Hope, please go check it out. It is absolutely phenomenal.
I think the thing that's really interesting too about the people who spearheaded it, they were not wealthy people.
Not at all. No.
I mean, as they were doing this, they were continually running into financial difficulties.
Yes.
And they eventually got everybody in their church, which probably was maybe 100 people, Barbara.
Maybe 100 people, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't like it was a huge church.
No.
He would go and ask. There were a couple of businesses he would go ask for money, and pretty much had to beg them.
Yes.
But they were determined that they were not going to let these kids go back into foster care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once they had adopted.
And some of these kids were special needs kids, and some of them had behavioral issues. But they were determined they were not going to send them back into the system. They said that they truly needed love and someone to love and care about them. And with that, they felt like they could change them. And at the end of the movie, it showed the real life people, the people who were truly involved. And again, it was amazing to see the impact that that community had on these children's lives and how they were living productive lives and had families of their own now. And it was an inspiring story.
Especially that one girl.
Yes.
Terry, I think.
Terry, yes.
Terry had all kinds of issues, man.
Terry thought she was a cat.
Yeah.
And so,
and
yes.
they were looking for her one day, and Terry had stolen the car and was gone. How old was she? I don't think she was about 16 or something.
I don't think she was 16. I think she was maybe 14 at the time, 13, 14. So Terry was trying to get back to the water. The pastor's and his wife's daughter, they had children of their own. And so their daughter had taken Terry and another friend of theirs to this pond or lake or something that she called it her secret place. And she said nobody knew about it. And so Terry was trying to get back to that place because she wanted to be baptized. She was at a baptism, and she asked her adopted mother, she said, what are these people doing? She said, they're being made new because they're being baptized. And so Terry, because of all the things that she'd gone through, and she knew that she was a problem child. And so she stole the car to try to get back to this body of water because she wanted to dip herself in that water and make herself new again. So again, it was just such an inspiring story.
It is a great story. For everybody out there, if you get a chance.
She was the one that thought she was a cat?
Yes. She was the one that thought she was a cat.
Okay. When you were saying that she stole the car, like, well, she should know the cats don't drive. But then when you say she's trying to get to the water, I said, oh, she want to get some fish.
No. You have to watch the movie. I don't want to give it all away, but you have to watch the movie to see how they broke her of thinking she was a cat. So the pastor was really good in handling that situation.
Yeah, they were. I mean, I tell you, it would have been tough on anybody. I don't know. If I could have handled it, who could have handled it?
I know. I don't think I could, Tom.
That's tough.
Yes.
Yeah. And you said they had kids of their own. How many of their own did they have already?
They had 3 of their own. This particular family.
Yeah, and then they
brought in 7.
They brought in 7 more.
Wow.
Yes.
And I mean, and they didn't what do I want? They didn't smooth over the story.
No,
they showed you
the
real story, and and how the mother and the father would get into serious arguments, man, about these kids, and when, especially after they got the first 7, then the mother wanted to get some more.
Right.
No. It's a great story.
It is.
You guys got anything else?
Tom, I do want to mention one other thing about our dear old state, Alabama. It's now easier to buy ammunition in a certain part of the state of Alabama. Since November 2023, a company called American Rounds has operated an ammunition dispenser out of a grocery store. Yeah. And they said that this vending machine style dispenser works because the customer chooses the ammo they want. They scan their ID, and then it uses artificial intelligence to do face recognition to make sure the face that's standing there matches the face on the ID. But they just want to make it easier for people to get ammunition these days. So
where is that?
It is in Alabama. I want to say it's in Pell City. They had 2 locations. They had one in Tuscaloosa as well, but I think they had so many complaints about the one in Tuscaloosa that they shut that one down. But I think this one is in Pell City, Alabama.
Okay.
Of course, I'm not going to find it here in the article right now, but yeah, it is in the state.
Something new every day.
Every day.
I mean, what legislator thought that was a good idea?
Michael, who knows? Yeah, like I said, this company, of course, they're out to make money. So I don't know how you could. I mean, you would think there should be legislation against that, but undoubtedly there's not. We have all kind of crazy laws. We're trying to get certain books out of libraries and all kinds of craziness like that, but they allow ammunition to be sold in dispensers in grocery stores.
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
None whatsoever.
Especially
dear old Alabama.
Especially in the light of all these mass shootings and stuff. And you recall there were a couple incidents where people were killed at the grocery stores.
Oh, yes. Yes.
In New York, that guy that went to the grocery store to kill people of color.
Right.
That happened over in, I think it was Tennessee one day. And some guy just walked into the grocery store and started shooting. So now
and I think just recently, Michael, I think even over the weekend, there was a shooting at a grocery store in another state. So, yeah, I think this, it's just not, it wasn't a good well thought out decision, but again, I don't know why someone's not jumping up and down and having fits about this in our legislature.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Okay, anything else from you guys? All right, well, let's go to Sean because she's got a minute for us today. Good morning, Sean.
That's it.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. The holiday hustle and bustle has calmed down, and over the weekend, I was able to catch a documentary called Scope's Monkey Trial. I know what you're thinking, Sean. The what? Well, hear me out. The Scopes Monkey Trial began on July 10th, 1925 in Dayton, Tennessee, with John Thomas Scopes, a young high school science teacher, accused of teaching evolution in violation of Tennessee state law. The law made it a misdemeanor punishable by fine to teach any theory that denies the story of divine creation of man as taught in the Bible, and to teach instead that man was descended from a lower order of animals. Scopes had conspired to get charged with this violation, and after his arrest, the aid of American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, to organize a defense. Hearing of this coordinated attack on Christian fundamentals, William Jennings Bryan, a 3-time Democratic president candidate and a fundamentalist hero, volunteered to assist the prosecution. Soon after, the stage was set for one of the most famous trials in U.S. history. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
All right. Well, let's move on, Hollywood, to our G-list guest. Hollywood's got the A-list, and here on Tuesdays with Tom, we have the G-list. Our G-list guest today is Quentin Riggins, Senior Vice President of Governmental Corporate Affairs at the Alabama Power Company. He also serves as President Pro Tem of the Auburn University Board of Trustees, and he was also a starting All-American linebacker for legendary coach Pat Dye in the 1980s. So let's welcome Quentin Riggins. Good morning, Mr. Riggins. How are you?
Good morning. How's everybody?
Doing well.
Well, thank you.
Doing fine. We're doing fine. We're going to start off with Barbara. She's going to ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll move it around.
Okay.
Barbara.
Quentin, I want to first start by saying congratulations on being selected pro tem of the Auburn University Board of Trustees, and
Thank you.
talk about that position and what all it entails and what your responsibilities include as pro tem.
Yeah, as pro tem, you're elected by your fellow trustees, and I'm actually in my going to start my second year, and it's you fall into a leadership role. It's a commitment of being the vice pro tem, and you're learning, about what some of the other committees. You're working with the senior leadership of the administration, and you're learning, what's going on with the university, everything from enrollment to fundraising. And then you ascend into the pro tem role, and you're literally working with the president as he tries to put forward his leadership. And Chris Roberts, Dr. Roberts is one of the best people with a servant heart. And the question out of his mind, he always asks, what about the student experience? That is a focus of his. And because of my career of working in student affairs years ago, I love it. But the pro tem kind of is there as a sounding board. And the board of trustees has one employee, and that's the president. And the president handles all the day-to-day activities. And so I'm starting my third year in the leadership role. And I will tell you, some weeks I talk to Auburn every day, multiple times a day, some minor, some not minor.
Right.
And sometimes I will talk to a leadership person on campus maybe 3 times a week, and it just varies. And so, but one of the things that I really enjoy more than anything is doing graduation. And I remember the first graduation as a board member, and there was a young man. I was doing the master ceremony. I did a summer graduation, and he just came up to me and just gave me a big bear hug, pick me up, and what he said, I did it, and then I could hear his family in the background, in the arena just cheering, and it made me think that that's what it's all about. You want to provide the opportunity and environment where people can pursue whatever goal, dreams that they have, and hopefully you can be a part of that successful pathway. And then I got to see part of that gentleman's journey as he paraded across the stage. So for me, that was it.
Awesome. That's great.
Michael?
Well, good morning, Quentin. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your ascension there on the Board of Trustees. I noticed that you're also with Tigers Unlimited and on that board. Tell us about that program and Tigers Unlimited. What does it mean and what does it, compose of?
Yeah. So one of the things when I was actually the lead trustee for athletics as I was coming up on the board, and as the lead trustee of athletics, and we only have one trustee that leads legal, one trustee that leads athletics. Now it's Tim Bynes. And when I served in that role, I got a chance to also serve in a dual role of being on Tigers Unlimited. And Tigers Unlimited is all about trying to raise money, foundation money, and to try to provide, hopefully, the athletic director, John Cohen, different avenues to try to serve not only student athletes, but also alumni and so forth. So Tigers Unlimited is hosting an event, say the Friday night before a game. They bring people together in this stadium. You may hear about the Friday nights, and you can go into the stadium and see the arena and everything. But it's an opportunity to try to engage alumni, bring speakers in, whether it's Butch Thompson, the baseball coach, or bring in any of the other leaders around campus, and to come and talk to alumni. And so they're informed on what's going on campus. And hopefully when you have them informed and engaged, hopefully they're willing to support the university through Tigers Unlimited or give to any other part of the campus that they're involved with.
Does Tigers Unlimited get involved with the NIL program?
Well, with a lot of the changes coming on, the landscape with college athletics, there could be a role for Tigers Unlimited in that space. Right now, you have a lot of the collectives that are out there now that kind of have like competing. I always say you got a pizza, and there's only so many slices of pizza to go around. And so you got Tigers Unlimited that's kind of there to work for the university and raise funds for the university, whether it's a construction need or whatever it may be. And then you have the collective that's out here that's designed to go out and hopefully partner and try to sponsor an athlete, a SUNY League type, and hopefully market that athlete. And so with the changing landscape with the lawsuit out on the West Coast, you may see those entities have to merge and where they work together. I think 2025 is going to be transformative in that space when it comes to these university foundation, the university role in these collectives. I think they're going to either merge or one of the two are going to go away.
Yeah.
I got an interesting question for you. I played for Shook Jordan, who was at Auburn 25 years. You played for Pat Dye, who came from the same school, really. They believed in being tough, and we were talking earlier about being out there on the field in this hot sun and all that stuff. How do you think Coach Dye would react to the NIL and the transfer portal? I know how Coach Jordan would react.
very poorly. He was very consistent with what he expected. All of our meetings, I say most of our meetings started at 6:30 in the morning. And of course his watch was always about 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
So you walk into the room and it's 6:20. You beat the 6:30 time. He walked in at 6:15. You're still late. And so he had that discipline and that demand. And although you beat the 6:30 start, you're late. You had stadiums, so you had to wait. You may get 100 stadiums, which you can only do 25 a day. And so you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have to run them before class. And so today, with the transport portal and the fact that these kids can move around without penalty, because if you left back then when we were in school, you had to sit out a year. When you transferred, if it was in conference, you had to sit out 2 years. And so now there's no penalty to sit out. And so a kid could get his feelings hurt, get mad, get upset, and then they could transfer without penalty to another school. So you see these veteran coaches like Mike Krzyzewski from Duke, Roy Williams of North Carolina. You see these veteran coaches are starting to ride off into the sunset because it's a different landscape. You can't do a Bobby Knight and be hard on a kid because now they can leave without penalty.
Coach Jordan, you talk about the watch. Coach Jordan, he tell us, first of all, he'd tell us how to park our cars in the parking lot. He got mad one day because the cars wasn't parked right. People wasn't parked between the lines. Somebody was over in another line. And so we got to lecture about that. But then he said, when he says 3 o'clock, he meant 3 o'clock on his watch.
Yes.
He didn't care what anybody else's watch said. He said, I don't even care what that clock says, Sanford Tower. That doesn't count but my watch. If you ain't here at 3 o'clock on my watch, you're in trouble.
Those rules were because they post at Sewell Hall with the meeting schedule and so forth. And if you were anywhere after the appointed time, you're going to have to run. There was going to be some discipline associated with that, and it was consistent all the way down. We even had rules like this time. I don't know if y'all had it, where when we traveled, Coach, I was very, very particular about you represent the university, and so we had to have sport coat, had to have a collared shirt. Anytime we did interviews, leading up to the game, you had to have a collared shirt on, and you had to be clean shaved. He just had these rules because it was like you're representing the university, representing more than yourself. And so to this day, I got to the office around 6:30. I made sure I shaved. I got the gray coming in because I can't hide that. But some of those rules and some of that stuff play out today in my daily life.
Yeah, you do reflect on all that and remember all that. Barbara, you got another question?
I do. Quentin, it's obvious that you have been successful in every level, high school, college, your career as a lobbyist and working for Auburn University and now working for Alabama Power and executive there. Who was your inspiration? Who motivated you to work that hard in life? I mean, because again, it's obvious there was some inspiration and some motivation there.
Thank you for the question. My mom, both my parents are great and were just, they had their rules that my brother and I had to follow. And, we both, when we turned 16, we had to go to work. And they didn't care. You could play football, you could play basketball, you could run track, but you're going to go to work. And so when we both turned 16, he worked at Winn-Dixie, I worked at McDonald's.
Right.
But when she was both my parents undergrad went to Alabama State, they went to Tuskegee and got their master's degree. They both worked at Tuskegee, and so while my mom worked at Tuskegee, she for about 5-6 years, I remember 6 years, she drove from Tuskegee to Tuscaloosa at least twice a week to pursue her PhD. And so my brother and I had we were given assignments, and this was 78, 79, and
Right.
so we were given assignments. Hey, wash the dishes, cut the grass, vacuum the house. We had things that we had to do, and I can remember sometimes not doing those things because we're boys.
Right.
And I remember getting tapped on the shoulder about 3 o'clock in the morning, and with a belt about like that, and we getting up in the morning, washing dishes at 3 o'clock in the morning because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. Those lessons and that discipline helped my brother and I kind of get where we are today. And so, and Dorothy Riggins, just great leader, passionate about her boys, and whether we play football or not, we were going to go to school, and that was the theme around our household. If you didn't play football, if you didn't get a scholarship, you're going to go to Alabama State, and you're going to go to work, and that was the culture that was within our household.
Wow. And I understand that culture even carried through on your visit to Auburn when you went your recruiting visit to Auburn. Talk about that situation, because I read the story and it was fascinating.
So again, I worked at McDonald's, and Auburn had come to see a kid out of Enterprise High School, and it was a running back, and I ended up having a great game. And Auburn ended up recruiting me, and they invited me to come to a game the very next year. And it was in 1985, Bo Jackson's senior year, playing Southwest Louisiana, the first time I ever been on campus.
Wow.
And my dad and I went up for a recruiting visit. And the football coach recruited me is James Daniels, the offensive line coach.
Yes.
And so he was going through the itinerary, telling us what we're going to do. And he said, after the game, you're going to get a chance to meet Coach Dye. You're going to meet some of the players. And so, okay. And my dad said, well, Coach Daniels, I appreciate that, but Quentin's not going to be able to stay for the full game. We got to get him back to Montgomery for work. And Coach Daniels kind of looked and said, okay. And Coach Daniels, he wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Right.
He said, we're going to get him to stadium. And so, as we were getting ready to start making our way over to the game, Missy Dye, who was a Tigerette at the time, was recruiting me, and she was going through the same itinerary. And my dad said, "I'm sorry, he will not be able to stay for the full game. We're going to leave at halftime." And make a long story short, Missy took it upon herself to take me and my dad down to meet Coach Dye prior to Tiger Walk, which is like taboo,
Right.
He's getting in his own zone, getting prepared for the game.
Right.
And so we go down, no other recruits, no other player, just me, my dad, and Missy Dye go in and meet Coach. And I'm thinking, man, this is like,
you're right.
A guy I see on TV. And of course, Coach comes in, he tells me, we think you're the best linebacker in the state. We want you to come to Auburn and so forth. And hey, and he goes through, like the third person goes through the script. And I said, I know my dad's not going to tell Coach Dye no. Right. He said, Coach, I appreciate it, but we're going to leave at halftime. I gotta get Quentin back to work.
He was serious. Your dad was serious.
Yeah, he's got to be his shift starts at 5 o'clock. He will not miss that shift. And Coach Dye he sat back and he just nodded his head. It's okay. And little did I know that was one of the things that set me apart from other players.
Yeah. Yes.
And I crawled under. I was trying to crawl under the table, And
right.
But it was something that stood out to Coach, and he said, "I got to have that guy." And so, but my dad was firm. He didn't care.
I love it. It sounds like my parents.
He's like, he will be back, and I was back. I finished listening to that game in the car. Yep.
Wow.
There was I didn't play for Coach Dye, but I somebody wrote an article about me in the newspaper in Birmingham, and Coach Dye got in touch with me about the article because I had mentioned my parents and what a great influence they had been. And he was really big about that. You know, he was like, "Oh, I saw you. Oh, you. I mean, I'd like to meet you." I mean, it was like, well, all I did was say I had a great parents. And you talk about your dad. I worked at Shoney's when I was 16, and I was a busboy.
Yeah.
And the night we played minor high school, I was at John Carroll. Man, I scored 2 touchdowns. It was the first time I'd scored some touchdowns. I was all excited and stuff. And, you know, we went out after the game. So I probably got home by 11, 12 o'clock, not with the guys and stuff. 5 or 6 o'clock, my daddy was waking me up. Come on. You got to go to work. My daddy had a saying, you don't work, they don't pay you.
There you go. There they go, right there.
Michael, you got something else?
Yes. But first of all, that hearing you guys talk about them, I guess that's where the phrase was coined, moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
Never on time. Every time you talk to you on time, they moved it from you and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where moving the goalposts come from. Quentin, I wanted to ask you about this. You're on the board of directors for Grandview Medical Center there in Alabama. What is the, other than UAB, what is the other level 1 trauma center hospital in the state of Alabama?
Oh, that's a great question. Outside of UAB, I'm not sure if Huntsville Hospital might be another one, but I'm not sure.
Okay, all right. Well, I was asking because, you know, that's a big issue is healthcare right now, especially in states like Alabama, all the southern states and rural hospitals and stuff. But is Grandview one of those indigent care hospitals where they kind of cater to those people that may be on Medicaid or may not even have Medicaid yet, but need to be on?
Yeah. Grandview doesn't do as good a job of advertising that or talking about it as much as they should. But yes, you know, one of the challenges that we faced coming through COVID, like everybody, not having enough specialists and not having enough nurses during that time. Y'all may remember the traveling nurses were just, they were just hard to find, hard to keep. Because of the amount of money that they're paying on the West Coast and also up in the Northeast. But Grandview has the main location right off 280, the old Health South building, has already expanded into Trussville and put a branch there and are looking to do other things through the certificate of need to expand to try to meet the need. Yeah, I think you have. We're fortunate in Birmingham to have UAB, to have Grandview, to have that kind of healthcare. The challenges we have, and this is where my politics come in, our rural hospitals are struggling. Rural healthcare, the gaps between what a citizen may receive in Demopolis or Selma, opposed to, you know, being able to drive, you know, 15 minutes to a hospital here locally. It's a challenge. We've seen where telemedicine is a possibility, but we still have gaps with our infrastructure as far as having the technology and the bandwidth for some to have even this to be streamed. And so I hope that as we kind of grow in the future, that we find a way to make sure everybody has the same quality health care, whether you live in Mobile, whether you live in Montgomery, Birmingham, or you live in the Black Belt. But more importantly, the talent that we have that leaves the state, can we hopefully retain these doctors, these nurses, and making sure that they're as feel like they have the same quality of health and education in the Black Belt as they have in other places.
Yeah, well, that's I asked about that. I'm in the healthcare business from a insurance and broker, but we deal with hospitals and funding. Primarily, we look for ways to finance healthcare, and that's a big issue here in Atlanta. One of the hospitals shut down. One of the level 1 trauma center hospitals shut down, and that left Grady as the only level 1 trauma center, but they recently got another one up in Gainesville, north of Atlanta. But you have a lot of these issues, like you talk about certificate of need and things like that, in order to get more hospitals in rural areas to assist with the people that are in those areas. And that kind of takes Medicaid expansion in the state of Alabama. I understand Alabama was kind of looking at it from a legislative standpoint. Georgia's been looking at it too, but it's a tricky situation where we all know and look at it that Medicaid need to be expanded for those people that are of a diverse background that do not have access to health care and can't afford it. But so speak about that and the politics on Medicaid expansion in Alabama.
I will tell you, I know that Tim Bynes' team at Blue Cross Blue Shield, a guy by the name Ted Haas, who's his leader in Montgomery, his voice in Montgomery, actually has been working on healthcare for all. And they've had friendly ear from the House legislative leadership in trying to put together a package that the governor would accept that would expand in its Medicaid expansion, but it's called healthcare for all. And they almost pulled it off this past session. It got behind gambling. and for us, any proposal that gets behind gambling is probably not, it's going to be a challenge. But
Right.
Gambling, but it was well received. And so I'm optimistic that this upcoming session that we're going to finally get to a space to have Medicaid expansion. And so, but it's out there, and I tip my hat off to Blue Cross Blue Shield because they're the tip of the spear, and they're doing a great job of making that a case for it.
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Quentin, let me ask you this. You talk about your parents, and I know you've talked about the many things that you've done. But I know one of the people you're most proud of is your daughter. Talk about your daughter and what she's accomplished in her young life.
Yeah, I got Madison Riggins. She is wide open. She is, you get what you deserve. When, I probably was bad. My mom probably said I was wide open too. She graduated from Auburn in environmental science, and she was actually in grad school at Auburn, and she met this wonderful lady that was on the road for Arkansas, and just convinced her, hey, you can pursue your law degree and master's degree at Arkansas, and just consider it. And so she said, well, let me think about it. And so my wife and daughter went up to Arkansas. I've been up there more times than I could shake a stick. And I told them, I said, if you go up there, it's nice. I mean, the facilities, the schools, everything is nice. And so she went up there, and 3 years ago finished. It just seemed like just like yesterday. Yes. And so she wanted to come back home, and she got great experience. She got to work for JP Hunt Trucking. She got to clerk at Bradley A. Rant Law Firm here in town. She clerked for Fordyth, and so she's now studying for the bar. She's excited. We're excited. So hopefully by the end of this month, she'll sit for the bar, and then she'll have to wait 6 weeks. I'm probably gonna go on vacation for 6 weeks, disappear. Thankfully, football season, and she's a live wire. I try to tell her not to post on football, but she's her own person, and she has her friend clique that she got from Auburn that she loves to death, and they're all Auburn, all football, softball, anything Auburn basketball. She has an opinion, and
we love Madison. Leave her alone.
She posted about Auburn downtown changing. She got in the middle of a conversation, and next thing you know, I'm getting a text from the Mayor Andrews of Auburn saying, "Hey, is this Madison? Is your daughter?" Said she's her own person. So I will tell you, I'm not changing her mind. I don't lobby her. If you got a problem with it, you're gonna have to talk to her herself. I mentioned her. She said, "I'm available." So, but yes, very proud of her.
Well, good deal. I knew you were. Michael Barber, you got anything else for Mr. Riggins?
I don't know if you can answer this question quick, but I know Auburn, you talked about the student experience in Auburn, and I know Auburn has a huge number of applicants every year.
Yes.
probably the highest in the state of Alabama. And, some other schools across the state have increased in their enrollment to accommodate those who are applying to Auburn. Auburn has had a cap on enrollment for quite some time. I think they increased it a little bit every year, but is there any plans to maybe just open it up and hopefully let more kids into Auburn? Because again, I know there's so many that are turned away every year.
Yeah, I won't say we won't. We're looking more so 60-40 in-state. We're trying to bring as many kids in-state and educate in-state as possible. The overall cap number, we've heard alumni who kids that may do very well on the ACT or SAT and they don't get in because they're out of state. So if you're a kid, you got a 28 and you're out of state, it's going to be hard to get in Auburn, and it's going to be a challenge. Now, what we have to do when you look at open up enrollment, you got to look at your facilities. If you have enough classroom size, you have enough dorms. The whole footprint of the university, you got to look at and address it together. I will say that Dr. Roberts and his team are looking at ways to increase that number of incoming freshmen. And so we will not be like some of these other schools like Texas or even what Alabama is doing, but I could see our number comfortably going up a couple thousand to try to at least accommodate this core group of kids. Now we're in demand. We got a great situation, and some schools were affected by COVID where they were losing students and losing attendance. We don't have that problem, and so we're trying to manage that. But if Dr. Benny Nathan, our provost, is leading this strategic plan, and I think you will see that we're going to look at that and try to figure out how to grow comfortably to accommodate the demand.
Okay, thank you.
I think you're going to like it.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything else? Quentin, is there anything we hadn't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, Tom Gossam is I will say when I first met Tom Gossam was he came back. He did not have to mentor student athletes. It was my first time getting a chance to come back and be a part of him and several other guys. And he was the ringleader for us. And as we always try to do, we try to talk to young athletes about, there's just a window, an opportunity, to use your athletic ability to get where you want to go. And whether it's being doctor, lawyer, or this space, not just an athlete. And Tom was the very best at reaching the kids. And I've always tried to take his words and his style to try not to preach to the young people, but to try to reach them at whatever stop they were at.
That's right.
And invite them to look at their talent, that they're more than just football players. And he was the very best. And so I want to say thanks for being a great mentor to all of us. And you've always been that for me.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like Tom. He's always been the ring leader.
Oh man, it's been wonderful just to be able to do that. And I think it was Coach Barfield was the first one to ask me to come back. And, I've enjoyed it, and hopefully I can be involved with the new coaching staff and can talk to the kids. You just want them to understand that it's such a temporary thing. You're there. It was 3-4 years, and then you're gone. You're out there. I can remember the year after I stopped playing, I was sitting there outside the stadium, and everybody was going to the stadium for a game, and I thought, well, nobody saying hi to me. Nobody doing. My turn's over. It's somebody else's turn, and you have to recognize that and be able to deal with that. Of course. We wasn't getting any NIL money. You couldn't even talk. You couldn't even mention transferring somewhere. Are you crazy?
No. No.
Quentin, that was one of the other things I wanted to ask you about as well. I know we work with the athletic department. Is there any plans to bring back more of the Trailblazers to introduce them to the current students? Because most of the students don't have any clue of the history and know that, like Tom was the first Black scholarship athlete to graduate from Auburn, and Henry Harris was the first Black basketball player at Auburn. They have no idea about the history, and I think that's so important for them to know that.
Yeah, great question. Cohen is very good at that. I may mention that to him if it's all right. And I do think having people who've gone that path and have made it on the other side, it's important that they talk to. It's important that they see.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of talented coaches out there. I think there are a lot of talented people. Little Joe Witt Jr., I watched him play on the blocking dummies, and now he's one of the best coaches, defensive minds in all of NFL.
Right.
Also know Tom Gossam is just a superior actor. And we have a range of talent that in a blink of an eye, you're in and out of there 3 years, 2 years, 4 years. And we want the kids to know while you're there, get the best education you can. Don't waste that opportunity. Right. And I will take that up with Cohen.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
When I would talk to the kids, I would ask them, I said, do you know where Sanford Hall is? And boy, they'd look at me like, what the hell is he talking about?
They say, is that near Haley? Yeah.
You know what goes on in Sanford Hall. And so you just try to educate them. You just try to bring them into where what's going to affect them for the rest of their lives. Football will be over. And I'm glad. I know we're playing Alabama A&M and first game. And I remember we played Alabama State. And it's interesting because being able to be a part of some things and I was up at Alabama State for some, and the lady who was president, she said something, and I said, well, if we'll play you guys, and so I went back to Jay Jacobs. I said, Jay, I talked to this lady over at Alabama State, and we ought to play them. We played Southwest Louisiana and so on and so forth, and that kind of started that.
Wow, that's great. I did not know that, Tom. That's wonderful.
Yeah, sometimes you just ask. And I've met with Cohen. He's come to a couple of the Trailblazer things. I think he has an interest there. And so maybe a little nudge from you will help. But it's been great because we've been able to bring not just the football players, but basketball guys, track guys. I mean, you got a guy, and you have a guy like Clifford Outland who currently has cancer, but he's come twice. And, Clifford was the fastest man in the world, 60 yards when he was at Auburn. And so we had some guys who, maybe they were not on the level of Bo and Charles or whatever, but they're certainly on a very, very high level. Yeah. And it just would be good if people would recognize them.
Yes.
We'll do that. We will do that.
Okay. So. Well, thank you, man, so much we appreciate it. And I look forward. I guess I'll see you next week.
I will see you next week. That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Okay. And let's see, where am I? I wanted my closing comment for today, or as I see it. I want to give a shout out to my brother, my college roommate and teammate, Mitzi Jackson. Mitzi and I played for Auburn in the early days of Southeastern Conference sports integration. We were close then, and we've remained to be close all the years. Mitzi and I played for Coach Ralph Shug-Jerd in the early days of Auburn football integration. In those days, there were only 3 black players on the team. We won a lot of games. Let's see, we finished in the top 10 in the country 3 of the 4 years that we played together. As roommates, we looked out for each other. I graduated, and Mitzi followed, becoming the second black football player to graduate the university. He was a hell of a running back, an outstanding basketball player, and could have played baseball. After his graduation, he became the head coach head basketball coach at Lochapoka High School, where his team won the state basketball championship. He would later move to Birmingham, where we reunited, and he moved in with me until he got his footing and bought his own place. He was a well-loved coach by his students and those he coached up until his retirement. Mitchell recently suffered a health issue and had some serious surgery. He is recovering, and in our conversation since his release from the hospital, he is as ornery as he ever was. We were close while in school and remain close today. My brother, then and now. Get well, Jab. And that's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. I want to thank our G-List guest, Quentin Riggins. It was wonderful. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, Joyce. And that's it for this July 9th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you've got an extra one, give one to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.